Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Bryce Simon is going to join me here, and we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs tonight. The Indiana Pacers and the Boston Celtics advance. The Detroit Pistons live to fight another day, and we'll see a Game 6 in Detroit. And the Denver Nuggets take a 3-2 lead against the Los Angeles Clippers. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Sam? How are you? I hate to be repetitive here, but the NBA playoffs just keep delivering every single night. They keep now, depending on what happens on Wednesday, Friday night might not deliver anything because there literally might not be any games. But tonight, I was like having a panic attack. I was like, one of these games needs to be a blowout, or I'm not going to be able to talk about one of them that needs to be talked about. So luckily, Boston came through. I was able to catch the Indiana Milwaukee game while finishing the Pistons game and starting the Nuggets game. And it all worked out okay. We got two really good games, a third game that was okay, and then the Boston game that was the blowout.
I think that's right. I think that we're going to start with the okay game, honestly, because that just ended.
Yeah.
The Denver Nuggets beat the LA Clippers 131-115 in a game that the Clippers tried to make these little mini runs in after a terrible first quarter. That was really kind of the story of the game. The first quarter was a total beatdown. I loved what Jokic did, just completely controlling and dictating the game as a passer and playmaker, more so than as a scorer. I mean, it just felt like the Clippers never really had any chance to get on top of them defensively in any way, shape, or form. Anything that you felt like you saw in terms of why, the Clippers just had zero chance in this game?
Yeah. Jamal Murray couldn't miss. He had 43 in this game on 26 shots, and Russell Westbrook had 21 points on 15 shots. And I hope people appreciate us enough to know that we're not just like, hey, this team made shots, this team didn't, move on to the next series, right? Like we break things down in a way that is more nuanced and detailed than that when it needs to be. And there is some of that in this game as well. But at the end of the day, you could tell, like, one of my notes is on Murray is always the shot diet is so difficult, but he's used to this shot diet, and there are going to be games when he just is making everything. And that was tonight. And this is why in a playoff series in the NBA, when you have a chance to win games, you cannot give them away, because the other team has somebody like Jamal Murray who can go for 40 and dominate a game, or a guy off the bench like Russell Westbrook who has high variance, but who knows if he may play a game or back-to-back games where he's making jump shots. And it's just like, well, what do we do with this? And that's why you have to take advantage of games when you have a chance, or else you're up against these type of games from somebody like Murray.
So couldn't agree with you more on any of this, first and foremost. And to me, it is a story of two things, this series, right? So A, the Clippers just gave away game one to me. That's kind of the reality of what happened there. I'm not going to say they gave away game four. That was an insane comeback where they had to go on a 32-9 run to be able to push their way back into this. And the Nuggets obviously make this incredible, buzzer beating dunk at the end from Aaron Gordon off of a miss from Nikola Jokic. That stuff's going to happen, right? The one they gave away was game one. And the other thing that they're giving away, they're just giving away points when Jokic is off the court.
Yeah,
that's the reality here.
That was huge tonight, Sam. I mean, anybody who watches the Nuggets game watches the non-Jokic minutes, right? It's the same way I watch the non-Cade minutes when watching the Pistons. And tonight it was like even -2, maybe something like that. And it may have
Yeah.
been better than that until the very. I don't know what the final score. Like, I don't know if the Clippers made some shots in the final few minutes or whatever. But
it was about even. So
okay,
like, here's the thing. So remove game 3 from the equation here. The Clippers or was it game 2 that was the total beatdown? It was game 3 that was the
game
total
3 was the
beatdown for the
was the
Clippers, right?
blowout. Yeah.
So remove game 3 from this equation. In games 1, 2, 4, and 5. Do you know how many points the Clippers are beating the Nuggets by when Nikola Jokic is off the court?
So 4 games, we're looking total points in 4 games. So it should be like, if they want to win, they should be plus 40. And I'm assuming they're not.
Yes.
Like, I'm guessing they're like plus 17 or something like that.
They're plus 13.
That's not
So they are
that's not going to get it done.
winning by fewer than 3 points or it's like right around 3 points per game, basically right now, in terms of how often they are winning the non-Jokic minutes. And that's not good enough. I think that that's ultimately what this game came down to for me. I'm not going to lie to you. It felt like the Nuggets were the fresher team, when in reality, we talked about this Nuggets team being the one that doesn't have any depth, doesn't have this, doesn't have that. The Clippers bench has been abysmal. They've been an abomination this series to me. Like, you can point to individual performances from time to time. Like, I didn't think Bogdan was terrible tonight. Like, Bogdan had 18 points and 5 assists on 11 shots in 23 minutes. But he's also been terrible on defense. And in the first 3 games of the series, particularly, I thought he was really bad. And Ben Simmons is just like not quite good enough at this level, right? And Derek Jones, I think, is just not giving them nearly enough on offense. And Nick Batum, plays really hard and is really sharp, but like didn't make shots tonight, right? So where is the two-way play coming from, and why are they not dominating the non-Jokic minutes? The reason tonight was just like obscene shot making from Russell Westbrook and Jamal Murray in the time where Jokic was off the court, right? I also think the Clippers just like randomly smoked some layups tonight. Like, I think Zubats had a couple of smoked layups. Powell had a couple of smoked layups. Like, these things happen. But the story of the series to me, above anything else before we go anywhere else, is that the Clippers are not beating the Nuggets by nearly enough in the non-Jokic minutes. We know that the starting lineup for Denver is excellent. And we know the Clippers starting lineup is excellent as well. But the issue is that, we think this Denver starting lineup might be, among the 2 or 3 best in the league, right? And we thought coming down the stretch, the Clippers might also be that as well. And part of the reason that I like the Clippers in this series is I specifically like the way that the Clippers matched up with the Denver starting lineup to be able to slow them down in some way. But the problem is that you're probably not going to beat the Denver starting lineup. So the idea is you have to slow them down. You have to mitigate your losses there in some way, shape, or form, and then just beat the shit out of them when the bench is on and when Jokic is off the court. The Clippers just aren't doing that in this series. And that, to me, is why the Nuggets are up 3-2. That is, above all, without any, that is the thing I point to in this thing and say, this is why this is happening.
I agree. And here's it doesn't get any better from tonight for the Clippers because Jokic only had to play 37 minutes tonight. And we are in the portion of the playoffs where game, day off, game, day off, game. And so they're going to get Wednesday off, come back Thursday. If it is forced to a game 7, day off. Yeah. And you mentioned kind of the Nuggets looking like the fresher team. Well, again, Jokic, who had been averaging 42 minutes a night coming into this game, only had to play 37. Actually, everybody outside of Murray in that starting lineup only had to play 37 minutes, only in quotations, but not having to play Jokic 45 to win the game 5 is huge for the Denver Nuggets because now and to your point, he was like a creator I know he's always a creator, but he only took 13 shots, right? He only went to the free throw line 5 times. It was a 13, 10, 12 triple double. And so he didn't even have to expend the amount of energy to go take a bunch of shots and stuff like that. He was just orchestrating the offense, letting Murray knock down his shots. Again, like we mentioned, Russ was knocking down his shots. I I'm always a fan of Christian Brown. I know the jumper hasn't been there, but what he does in transition, cutting, offensive rebounding, and if we want to start to transition to the Clippers, I think he's done a decent job on James Harden in this series. And I didn't think James Harden was very good tonight, Sam. The only Clipper who really impressed me in the starting lineup, Zubac, was still pretty good in my opinion, but Harden and Kawhi just weren't at the level we've seen in some other games in this series.
Yeah, Harden, I don't know what happened tonight. He just didn't have the juice.
It's back-to-back games. He has 26 points in the last 2 games. I mean, it's on 20 shots. He had 11 assists, in game 4. Tonight he only had 5. Sorry, I interrupt, but yeah, it doesn't seem like he had the juice, the energy tonight for it. It was weird.
Yeah, and this is a game where they had 15 points from Chris Dunn and 18 from Bogdanovich. Those are the games you probably expect to win. I thought Kawhi was fine tonight for what it's worth.
Fine,
the Nuggets really are aggressively trying to take him away.
Yeah.
That is since, what was it, game 3 or game 2 where he went nuts?
It was game 3, right? Is that right?
Yeah, the one where he went totally crazy. They're really selling
game 2.
out.
That game 2 was the 39 point game on 19 shots. Jeez.
Yeah, they're doubling him aggressively.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even doubling, but sending a late double at times, sending help all the way his direction a lot of the time. And they're specifically trying to make his life drastically more difficult every single time he touches the ball. And to his credit, he had 11 assists tonight.
He did.
Right?
That's true. Yep.
He actually did a really good job, I felt of moving the ball and making sure that they stayed within flow. I'll be honest, I almost think that where he has not been awesome the last couple of games is on the defensive end.
Sure.
And you brought it up on the last show that we did that, the Nuggets started to attack him a little bit on defense. I don't think they were afraid of him tonight on defense either. I don't know that they specifically made it a point to attack him, but they were pretty good going at him if they needed to. And that's, to me, almost the big difference right now between the Kawhi that we know and the Kawhi that we hope to see moving forward. It's not necessarily the offense. The scoring, wasn't amazing tonight, but he still had 11 assists. He still helped the team. I thought the defense was not quite at the level, and I think it's been that way for the last couple of games.
Yeah, I mean, the Nuggets going for 131 in these playoffs. We just haven't seen many games like that throughout the play, not just in this series, but the playoffs in general, a scoring explosion like that. And I think you bringing up the bench stuff is really important. I think it's really smart, Sam, because the Denver starting 5 you put up against most starting 5s. You feel like you're going to feel good if you're the Nuggets. The weakness was, do they get anything from the bench whatsoever? Obviously they did from Russ tonight. I felt like they had a crazy advantage with the lineup versatility and the people they could bring in with Batum and Derek Jones Jr., Bogdanovich. Like you said, even Simmons hasn't been able to play though. And it just hasn't shown through at all in that way. And so advantage Nuggets, not just in the series, but by being able to find a way to manufacture points or stops or whatever they're doing, not to get destroyed in the non-Jokic minutes. And I feel like if in game 6, the Clippers can't do it, listen, after game 3, I was like, man, I was feeling my Clippers love from during the regular season. I thought I was onto something, and these last 2 have made me, kind of question that, and that never question Nikola Jokic. I guess that would be the lesson learned here because he's amazing.
Well, I think game 1 is really the one that the Clippers are going to rue here if they lose the series.
Absolutely.
That's the one that they needed to win. That's the one that they really should have gotten, and they didn't. And because of that, they're sitting here down in a hole. They get to go home. People have been into it. Have talked a lot about the home court advantage and how great it's been so far, but I don't know. Look, you're playing Nikola Jokic, and Zubac is a great defender of Jokic, but he's able to beat you in 45 different ways because of the passing ability. So you put yourself in Jokic's hands in one of the next 2 games, and you deserve to get burnt. And really, again, I'm glad you brought up Jamal Murray. Jamal was the dude tonight. That's what all of this was Jamal just relentlessly attacking whoever they put on him. It felt like the Clippers, to me, at a certain point, decided they were going to start switching, and it really took like Chris Dunn off of Jamal. And, you know, you had Harden on him, you had a big on him at times, like you had different circumstances that Jamal was really able to take advantage of. And look, Jamal is feeling it. You know, if he's feeling it the way he was tonight, it's almost impossible to beat them, I think.
And I know tonight's numbers obviously are going to boost this a little bit, but for the series now, he's averaging 25 points on 48, 45, 93. And again, I know 17 to 26 and 8 to 14 from 3 boost those numbers, but games 2 and 3, he had 23 points in each of those games on 17 and 15 shots respectively. Game 1 wasn't as efficient. You know, game 4 is the only one that was kind of rough from him, efficiency wise. But even in like he's averaging 6 assists a game as well and 5 rebounds. It just the health of Jamal Murray, his ability to play at this level. You know, every broadcast they throw out the number of nobody has had a bigger jump in regular season to postseason points per games than Jamal Murray, and it's like you kind of believe you're going to see playoff Jamal Murray, but there was still a little bit of questioning, at least on my end, in terms of was he actually going to be able to get back to that? And it sure seems like he's found his rhythm and his groove. And to your point, against a good defender, like what should be a tough matchup for him with Chris Dunn or switch out Kawhi on him and this Clippers defense in general. And he kind of just carved him up with alongside Nikola Jokic tonight.
And the other guy here that just continues to be enormous for the Nuggets to me is Aaron Gordon.
Sure.
Every single time that dude is on the court right now, he is just gritting his way through it and has been phenomenal in this series. He has the dunk to win game 4. He had 25 in game 1. And then tonight he goes for 23, 4 and 2. He's awesome on defense. He goes to get every single loose ball. Like, they would be nowhere without Aaron Gordon right now. And he just continues to every single game provide these little winning plays, even outside of the scoring, that just continues to help them thrive.
I mean, here's what it is for the Nuggets. For me is I feel like these guys they're kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing in their role. Porter Jr., you know, like game 1 was he got benched essentially, right? And then he comes back and he has the 15 rebound game. That wasn't sustainable, but last 2 games, 17, 14 points. He's made 7 to 12 threes in those 2 games. I mentioned Christian Braun earlier. Again, I know the 3-point shooting hasn't been good in the playoffs, but he just makes tough plays, the rebounds. He had a sequence tonight where he bangs the 3 at the end of the 3rd quarter. Then he sprints back on defense and forces the steal so that Zubac couldn't catch the baseball pass or Hail Mary or whatever and finish right before the buzzer. I also thought it was interesting on the challenge where Harden, I think, got him. Brown was asking for the review, and I don't think they were going to do it. And then Jokic said, you could see Jokic said, did he foul you? And Christian told him yes. And then Jokic told him to review it. And then all of a sudden Adelman decided they were going to go ahead and review. So I think that shows a little bit of trust that Jokic has in Christian Braun there. But my point was, seems like each member of this starting lineup is, and they've played together for so many years, Sam, finding their role and kind of thriving just in what they're supposed to do, right? And that's a little bit dangerous for the rest of the West if they can figure it out. It's crazy that this team fired their head coach and GM a few weeks ago. Like we're talking about them playing so well in the playoffs, and that just happened.
So the final place I just want to kind of go here is, how do the Clippers kind of get back into this in any way? And to me, it really just does come down to Harden. Obviously the Nuggets tonight, they didn't, as aggressively blitz ball screens with Harden, which is interesting in and of itself, that he had a really rough night when they just played drop, like in the first quarter, for instance. Like that was really all that they did, is they just decided, okay, we're going to play drop. This is typically how we get beat. But, with the way that the Clippers are slicing us up when we put 2 on the ball, with just Zubac being able to make decisions, I really liked the adjustment and just to make them see early in the game something different. I thought it was sharp, and the Clippers now have to find an answer. And to me, the way that you beat the Nuggets in drop is you just have to attack Jokic and you have to make him slide his feet and be able to cut off the angle. And that comes down to Harden to me. Harden has to consistently be able to put pressure on him getting to the lane and make him make decisions and make him, stop Harden from turning the corner and be able to do the things that make Jokic at times when he's in drop coverage, specifically more of a liability defensively. And tonight, like that, again, just didn't happen in any way, shape, or form.
His field goal attempts have gone down every single game of the series, Sam. 22, 17, 14, 11, and 9 tonight.
I'm glad you bring this up because this is something that we see from James in the playoffs. It gets progressively worse for whatever reason, be it the wear and tear, be it that he's dealing with some sort of injury. And, I hope that he's able to rebound, but that's what this comes down to for me now is that it does how the Clippers were able to run roughshod over the Nuggets early in this series, defensively particularly, was with the ball screen and with Harden and then letting Kawhi play off of that and let him be like a secondary playmaker who creates open shots. Harden hasn't been able to do that recently. That's where it's going to come down to for me is Harden has to be the guy here that is able to run a primary action for the Clippers.
Yeah, he's got to drive offense. I couldn't agree more. I think that's the thing to look forward to on Thursday.
It'll be Thursday.
Yeah. Went past midnight, so the day changed. And it's harder to run two at Kawhi if he's in that situation. Whenever Kawhi's just coming down in an isolation or something like that, it's easier for the Nuggets to put two on him. But if it's Harden breaking the defense down off of a ball screen and then he skips it to Kawhi on the weak side and he's attacking a closeout, well, now the defense is in scramble and you can't put two on the ball and jump Kawhi whenever you're already in scramble because you're unbalanced. And so I'm with you. He's got to find the aggressiveness. We saw throughout the entire regular season, the aggressiveness we saw earlier in the series. He has to drive offense and then allow Kawhi and Norm Powell and Zubac to make shots and then create, if necessary, off of what he breaks down initially of the Nuggets defense.
The final thing I will note here is I will be interested to see if we see any sort of rotation change from the Clippers in regard to, okay, is there a way that we can adjust things to actually hammer the non-Jokic minutes?
Sure.
Is there a way that we can figure this out to where when he's off the court, we're giving ourselves a better chance to win?
Yeah. Can we have a certain lineup on the court whenever he leaves? Can we sub early, give a little bit into their starting lineup, but then we bring somebody back or something like that? Yeah, that would be interesting just to play with that with Ty Lue. Because that was another thing we talked about was, the coaching matchup in this series. And that would be a huge thing if Ty Lue could figure that out rotationally going into game 6.
All right. That's all I've got on this series. I mean, I think that obviously advantage Nuggets here moving forward.
Yeah.
They have the home court advantage in Denver in 7. And if the Clippers were a deeper team, I feel like I would feel better about the Clippers right now. But the fact that they aren't getting anything from their bench, outside of tonight from Bogdan, right? It kind of mitigates what I think is the biggest advantage that opposing teams have against the Denver Nuggets is their depth. And this playoffs, frankly, has kind of been the playoffs of depth to me at this point between Tatum missing time in the way that Minnesota is running roughshod over the Lakers through depth.
And the Warriors, right? The Warriors' depth has been a huge part of being able to sustain in that series.
I think that's absolutely right. You can look, the Indiana Pacers, right? Them just being able to come at the Bucks in waves, and we'll talk about that in a second here. This has been the playoffs of depth to me. And, we always think of it as you need your 7-man rotation in the playoffs that you trust. And that just hasn't borne itself out this year in any way, shape, or form. It's been the teams that are deeper. And if neither of these teams are deep in reality, I think that where you kind of let it roll is you probably bet on Jokic at the end of the day.
Yeah. If neither, like, because does either team have 7 you trust right now, specifically in this series? I don't know that you do. So then it almost comes down to, okay, who has the best starting 5? And if nothing else, the Nuggets have the best player in the starting 5. And whenever Murray's locked in, and again, I think these guys have figured out their roles and kind of, I don't want to say thriving in them, because I don't know that that's true for all of them, but all of them playing pretty well in their roles right now. So yeah, I'm with you.
Do you know who played the 7th most minutes on the Nuggets tonight?
DeAndre Jordan.
It was DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah.
That is 100% right. He played 10 minutes. Like they really went with 6 with Russ and it worked. But like on the other side, the Clippers went with 7 in Batum and Bogdanovich, and then Derek Jones played 14, right? So that was your 8. And you know what? Like Derek Jones goes for 7 points. Obviously Bogdan has the, 18 points, and Batum has 6 rebounds, and I thought he really went in and like grabbed the contested ball like pretty effectively, but 0 points, like doesn't score. So if we're going to assume that there's no depth in this series, that's what it comes down to for me, is the Clippers being able to find a way to win those non-Jokic minutes.
Yep. 100%.
Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action and to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000x your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. We love Prize Picks. It is genuinely just a really fun way to watch basketball games as much as anything. And it allows you to cash in on the basketball playoffs with Prize Picks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineups, whether it's points, rebounds, assists. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. Turn your playoff hot takes into tickets to basketball's championship series. Starting with the play-in round, every lineup you make on Prize Picks will enter you in the Takes 2 Tickets sweepstakes, which could get you in a +1, a VIP trip to the ship. Prize Picks is the absolute best place to win cash while just watching sports. Every Tuesday, Prize Picks will discount several projections on the board, usually by 15 to 25%. And on Friday, it's Flex Friday. You just make sure you opt in and tap the checkbox in your lineup builder to be eligible for the protected play. Choose squares from any game on the board. If your lineup does not win, you get your net losses back in promo funds up to your promo limit as soon as the lineup settles. Do not miss your chance to add your favorite playoffs from the ice in your Prize Picks lineup, whether it's goals, points, or hits. You can also bet on the hockey, or you can, have some action in daily fantasy sports on the hockey playoffs. You can download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, Bryce. Lot to talk about from this Indiana-Milwaukee game. Okay. So this was a classic Rock Diversing, if we've ever seen one from Doc Rivers. The Bucks are up 7 with 35 seconds to go. How this goes from there. I want to get this exactly right. If I can figure out the way to get it dead on in terms of the way that it went. It was, I'm trying to find it exactly. It was AJ Green makes the front end and misses the second free throw to go up 118 to 111.
40 seconds. 40 seconds.
40 seconds left. Andrew Nembhard makes a deep 3.
Yeah.
Gary Trent turns the ball over, entering the ball on an inbounds pass.
Yes, sideline out of bounds.
Tyrese Halliburton gets to his right, then actually goes left and hits a layup, gets an and one call on AJ Green, hits a free throw to make it 118-117. Gary Trent then bobbles a ball out of bounds on the sideline. 2 turnovers here from Gary Trent late, and Gary Trent played great tonight. He had 33 points. He was the whole reason that they had the lead in the overtime in the first place.
Yep.
And then Tyrese Halliburton, we all know he's going to go right. Like, I know that we just said he went left on the previous one, but like there is no player in the league that goes right quite as often as Tyrese Halliburton. If you look at the numbers, consistently, he wants to try and get your top foot, attack the top foot, and go to the right. Giannis in a switch situation gives up the right. Halliburton drills a layup to win it. And somehow the Pacers don't have to go 6 against the Milwaukee Bucks. It was the craziest. I mean, like, it was amazing. Like, first and foremost, shout out to people on NBA TV. They just kept doing these like insert shots on Doc Rivers, like slowly but surely just like losing his mind. You can see like internally, like wondering how this is all happening. It was amazing. Shout out the NBA TV camera crew and production folks. But second, I mean, an amazing comeback from Indiana. I loved the way that Milwaukee like came out in this game. Like after the Damian Lillard injury, they scratched, they fought, they clawed. I thought Giannis was like unbelievable in this game up until those last couple of moments on defense. It was clear that he just kind of ran out of steam. I think like he played 44 minutes. He was getting the shit beat out of him every time he touched the ball. Like they were fouling the hell out of him. And look, he took 17 free throws. Honestly, it could have been more. It was very clear that the Pacers said, we're going to go into this game. We're going to do everything we can to either send Giannis to the line or stop him from beating us. And the refs like did some of their part, but honestly, it felt like it was a real difficult game to officiate unless they wanted to send Giannis to the line 30 times. And maybe they should have.
We should all, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say Giannis goes for 30, 20, and 13. And oh, by the way, like they held the Pacers to 41 in the first half. And like the reason for that is Giannis. Like Giannis was everywhere on defense in that half too. Like, you know, if this is Giannis's final game in Milwaukee, and who knows, right? Like we'll talk about that here at the end a little bit again. It was a genuinely like heroic performance to go out on. And then there was some nonsense after the game that we'll talk about in a second. But what were just your overall thoughts on the way this went down?
Yeah, I just want to start at the beginning where Doc completely changed his starting lineup. You know, like Damian Lillard goes down and Doc uses that to completely reconstruct. You know, Taurean Prince had already lost his starting spot to Gary Trent Jr., but he inserts Bobby Portis for essentially Lopez, AJ Green for Kuzma, and Kevin Porter Jr. for Damian Lillard. And so,
which like, I do want to stop on that real quick.
Sure.
It's embarrassing that it took Doc this long to do this.
Sure.
Like it's genuinely egregious. It's been this way the entire season, that this has been a problem for them and that they should be playing a little bit smaller consistently. Yeah. And they shouldn't be playing as much drop, in part, not because it's always Brooks' fault, but because their perimeter defenders
can't do it.
With Dame and with Taurean Prince, like just couldn't run the drop scheme.
Yeah.
Right. And part of it's on Brook in this series because Brook is just not athletic enough to deal with this Pacers team. But more than that, like you had 45 different reasons to change this lineup. And for you to do it after you're essentially done in the series because Dame goes out. I mean, like if, you know, coach of the year is going to go out, you know, it has, have they awarded coach of the year yet? I can't remember.
No. Tomorrow's most improved. Tonight was rookie of the year. So
Yeah. So they're going to award coach of the year at some point. If there was a worst coach of the year in the NBA this year, I think Doc Rivers is like very much in the mix for this award. He was catastrophic this season for them, and he was catastrophic up until game 5. And then they lose. I don't even know if like you can totally blame him for the way they lost, but it's just like the most Doc Rivers way to lose a basketball game, to go up 7 with 35 left and they somehow lose. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, in a game where they go 19 of 40 from 3 because Trent Jr. not only hits 4 in overtime, but was 8 of 17 for the game. AJ Green was 6 of 10 for the game as well. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. They completely shift. Lopez only plays 8 minutes. Kuzma, obviously that trade looks awful at this point with that in season. I mean, they didn't get anything from him. And, I don't know what they would have got from Middleton or what, but that didn't work out. Bringing in Kuzma wasn't what they thought whenever you're putting him on the bench and playing him 13 minutes in game 5 in a closeout scenario.
It was embarrassing at the time, Bryce. Like we can just say it. Like that was a terrible idea at the time to do that deal. We knew it was a bad idea, and I have no idea why they did it. But here's my biggest issue with the Kuzma trade. If you're going to do a Kyle Kuzma trade, you're doing it in order to play more Giannis at the 5 lineups.
Sure. Yeah.
And to play Kuzma at the 4, and then you go 3 perimeter players.
Oh, no. They did you better tonight. They played Kuzma at the 2 tonight with Giannis at the 3, and I don't remember if it was Portis and Jericho Sims together or something. I was like, what the hell is going on right now?
It was insane. Like, but this is from a process perspective alone. In general, like, I don't think John Horst led them to a title, right? Like, I have my problems with what John Horst has done. I think specifically their draft strategy has been atrocious since he's been there. But the biggest thing for me is that as a front office executive, you have to know your coach and you have to have synergy with who your coach is.
Yeah.
If the coach is not going to play Kuzma at the 4 and he's not going to play the lineups that you acquire the guy to play, then you can't do the trade. You just can't. Like, that's what this comes down to. You cannot make that deal if you don't have full agreement on how it's going to go. And the best organizations, they run with top to bottom synergy and discussion of what actually works and what doesn't work. It's very abundantly clear to me that there was just no synergy in how this deal was going to get done and how they were going to actually make it work.
It was the AJ Johnson pick, right? Like, not that would have affected this necessarily, but we both said, like, Doc Rivers is never going to play this kid. Like, it ends up being a wasted pick because there's just no chance. So I agree with you. You have to have that synergy of at least understanding who your head coach is and who he plays and what style and what he's looking for. It's one thing I've learned whenever I talk to NBA scouts about the draft, and they're like, well, we have that player way lower on our board. I'm like, why? Well, so-and-so wouldn't play him. I'm like, well, that's just your board. Just because your coach won't play him because he can't do A, B, or C doesn't mean he should be the 50th player on my board that's a general board for 30 teams. It was interesting perspective that when you're scouting for a specific NBA team, I don't want to say it's easier, but it narrows your parameters to we only want players that do these things. Can I go locate them? Off topic. Sorry. As we get to the Pacers, Halliburton was awesome. Can I give Aaron Nesmith a shout out? Like, I just feel like he's awesome. He's really good, Sam. And I feel like he's been really solid all season for them. He's averaging 15 a game in this series, shooting 54-52 from the field and from 3. Shot it well from 3 on the season. I just wanted to give Nesmith a shout out before we get into Halliburton's great play. I'm sure we're going to talk about the end of the game and then some of the other stuff. I wanted to make sure I got a Nesmith comment in here.
Well, yeah, a few things here, right? So, like, Halliburton, I thought, like, was not amazing in the first half, but I thought really turned it on in the second half. I thought that there were 2 guys that really turned this game, in all honesty. And one of them, like, the numbers don't look amazing. Like, Andrew Nemhard had
Nemhard.
15, 6 and 6, right? You know, he had him on 14 shots. He wasn't like wildly efficient, but his defense was, as always, extremely aggressive. And he just made huge shots like right at the right time when they needed him.
It's what he
Like,
does, Sam. It's what he always does. This dude will not take shots for 8 minutes and then make the shot you need him to in the moment.
It's 100% right. Like, I think that more than anything, what the Pacers have is they have these dudes that elevate in the playoffs as much as anything. And it's because they've acquired the right guys, right? Like Aaron Naismith is a two-way player. Andrew Nemhard is a two-way player.
Yeah.
Miles Turner is a two-way player. Pascal Siakam is a two-way player. Like the guys that they've struggled with right now, like I thought Mathurin was like pretty rough tonight.
Yeah.
Like he was not very good.
Correct.
And he's not a good defender, and it's hard to play him a decent amount
Jarris
of time,
Walker
right?
struggled tonight. Like I didn't watch as closely defensively, but I don't know how they trust Jarris Walker to make the right decision on the offensive end in a playoff game right now. Like I don't know how Rick Carlisle can trust to put him on the floor next round. And like I'm not anti Jarris Walker. It's just I wouldn't trust his decision making.
Right. No, I completely agree. But the guy that really swung it tonight was TJ McConnell.
He's so much. He's so awesome.
The energy, the speed, the paint touches, like the entire thing.
The mid-range jumper, it's insane.
It was incredible. Like they needed an offensive boost desperately. In the first half, he comes in and really like just kind of gets them going downhill, gets them going out in transition again. And then the second one, in the second half, like he just starts driving again. He starts attacking. Like he gets to those little floaters. He gets to the rim. Like he's just an energy bug in such a big way for them off the bench. And I mean, shit, like would TJ McConnell be the second best player on the Milwaukee Bucks right now? Like, is that where we're at? I think he would be.
I mean, it wouldn't look like it tonight, but that's only because Trent Jr. shot the ball so well. Shoot, maybe. That's crazy. That's wow.
But it might be true,
It
right?
might be.
So
possibly. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Like TJ was fantastic tonight. He was so good. And they needed him. They needed a boost, especially after that 13-0 run to start the game. They get it out to like 20. What was the exact number? I wrote it down here. It was 33-13. And then he kind of came in and kind of got them buzzing a little bit again, which was big. So yeah, TJ was the big one. And then Halliburton, you know, again, 26, 5 rebounds, 9 assists versus only 1 turnover. You know, he's just, he is relentlessly trying to make the right pass. I honestly thought that, like, you know, his assist numbers could have been even greater tonight. It's just that, you know, it didn't hit a certain threshold because guys didn't make shots, but like his ball movement and everything was just fantastic.
Yeah, I thought he was impressive when he's being aggressive, especially whenever he's getting downhill along with the 3-point shooting. And I know he didn't shoot it great from 3 tonight, but that's whenever I really appreciate Halliburton. Like that's when I feel like he's in his best mental space and confidence and all of that is when he's attacking off the bounce. And I think it's interesting that his 2 huge buckets in overtime were getting downhill. They weren't like pull-up jumpers in transition or something like that. It was attacking downhill one time to his left and then attacking one of the best defenders in the league, you know, tired or not at the end of the game. And it's fair to say that about Giannis, but he's still attacking Giannis Antetokounmpo in the half court in isolation and finishing. And neither of those were easy finishes in big moments. So I was really impressed with his game tonight, and they're going to need him to be the best player on the court next series for them to pull that off. And I think he's playing at least in a way right now that he could do that if he's making shots and all of that. I think the aggressiveness that I want to see is there.
Yeah. So with Halliburton, we now have to move to the end of the game theatrics that occurred where his father comes out on the court after Tyrese makes the layup to win it. Gets like right in Giannis's face for reasons beyond my comprehension, waving a towel. Giannis said in the post game that he was kind of cursing at him and stuff. And Giannis like looked confused. He was like, what the hell is going on at first? And dude, like, what are we doing? Like that, like, I think I'm just at the point where like that guy should just not be courtside at this point. Like, don't put him courtside again. is kind of the reality. Like, I'm not saying like the Pacers need to be reprimanded in any way or like anything like that. Just move his seats. Like that should be the reprimand here, is that he doesn't have court access, and you move his seats like 3 rows back or whatever it is. You can move him behind the bench. You can do whatever you want to do. But that to me is like the obvious reprimand here. Tyrese, to his credit, after the game, like, you know, it can be hard in those moments, like go against a parent very publicly. And he just said like, yeah, I don't agree with anything that my dad did tonight. So, and it's a shame because like, this is what people are going to talk about after this game. And it was like the biggest moment of Tyrese Halliburton's career to this point. He just won a playoff series with a game winner. And, you know, that's what people are going to focus on.
Yeah. And that's, I love seeing parents support their children, right? And like, I love seeing the dads, moms, grandmas, grandpas, whatever, you know, people that are important in their lives, be happy for them and celebrate with them. I don't love like, this was just, it just seemed like trash talky, right? Like he was like talking trash to Giannis, and I'm just like, I don't think it was done in good spirits. I didn't like it. I also was a little confused, like you said, if you can't trust him not to go on the court in that situation, then you like have to remove him from having that access, I guess. And so it's like,
yeah,
I'm with you. Like, I don't think anybody should be reprimanded or fined or anything crazy like that. Like, I don't agree with anything like, and I don't think he should be like not allowed to come back to games or something. But I would understand if they did something along what you're saying. I didn't like seeing it. And you're right. Like that's tough for Tyrese. That's tough. Like I try to put myself in that shoes. Like, what if I saw my dad doing something like that? Like, how would I feel about it? And having to speak on it publicly would not be easy. So it would be understandable for Tyrese to want to support his father. Like, that's his father. And so for him to be able to say and stand up and say, like, I don't support what he did. Like, I respect that from Tyrese. And maybe the moment just got to his dad, and, you know, obviously, but yeah, I didn't like seeing that. I don't like that.
I'm sure that's what happened. I'm sure it was just like the moment got to him, but it just can't happen at the end of the day. It can't happen like that.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. There's no excuse for it.
So the final thing here that I want to talk about with the Bucks before we move to the next couple of games here that happened. They're obviously in a bad spot. And again, we're going to do a whole offseason preview on Milwaukee. Do you think this was Giannis's last game in Milwaukee?
I do.
I've thought more about it. I think they're going to do everything that they can to stop this from happening. I think they're going to try and make deals. I think they're going to try and like really, really do this, because like here's the thing about Giannis. I feel like we don't know a ton. He's never been put in this position where he has to pick Milwaukee, the organization where he has embraced, a city that he is like genuinely embraced, and a city that has embraced him. And for a kid that comes from his background, getting to Milwaukee at 19 years old, 18 years old, to have a city embrace him in the way that it did, I think it will be very difficult for him to say goodbye to that. But also, he is a wild competitor as well. Like, that's what we know about Giannis more than anything, is like, this dude really wants to contend. He really wants to compete. He wants to win championships. We've never had that like kind of push-pull yet with him to where we know what's going to happen moving forward. He has 2 years left plus a player option on his contract. So like, there's no time pressure here unless Giannis like puts it on them. You know what I mean?
If I was Giannis, this is what I would do. And I think as a star and a top 5, top 3 player in this league, he has it's within his right to do this. I would walk into the Bucks front office and I would say, I want to see the plan. I would like to see the plan for us to compete over the next year, next 2 years, next 3 years. And if Horst and company are able to put something together that says, we think we can do this trade to do this and this trade to do this, and we can free up space here to do this. And it's something, not that you like hold their feet to the fire, but like, okay, if Giannis says I can see that vision, then I could see him staying. If they're not able to put that together and be creative in a way to build out a real contender, I would at least understand why Giannis would say, okay, guys, I would really like us to work together to find me someplace else. That is, and it's going to be beneficial to Milwaukee because he's going to get a ton in return, whether it's picks or young players or something like that.
Yeah, but we went through this last time, and the real issue is that they don't have any of their picks until 2031, which means so there are multiple avenues here. So the first one is they try to keep Giannis. And I have like a sicko trade to bring up. So this is gross and sad, and I'm sorry about this. Do you think there's a world where the Phoenix Suns, trying to get off of Bradley Beal, would say, we will do Brad straight up for Damian Lillard? No picks, no anything. We will do Brad for Damian Lillard. Because the Suns aren't going to be able to move the Beal deal without giving up picks unless it's like a situation like this. And Milwaukee, to keep Giannis, probably needs to do something like this. They have to find a way to probably move Lillard at this point, and then find a way to probably bring in more talent. That was one I thought of. I was like, okay, is there a world where we can swing this?
You ruined my day when you sent this in the text. So the idea here is the Bucks get Bradley Beal, who is extremely overpaid, but still can be productive in this league. And then the Suns get, obviously are going to be without Dame for a year, but then get a better player theoretically coming back from the Achilles for at least 1 year. I wonder how Phoenix would feel about this in the immediate, though. What does that mean for Phoenix next year? Are they trading Durant this offseason still in this scenario? And it's maybe a 1 year reset anyway. And so it's okay. Yes. We get off Bradley Beal, but then, hey, we got Dame coming back the year after that, him and Booker, plus whatever else we can put around from the Durant deal and et cetera. I don't like this. I also, the GMAC brought up something interesting too. Would Bradley Beal accept this?
That's the big question. Bradley Beal obviously has a no trade clause. We don't know. My theory on why I think he might consider it is saving the Giannis era in Milwaukee is probably his route toward another big contract if he's going to get one, right?
Sure.
If he stays status quo in Phoenix, he's not getting another big deal. We should feel pretty good about that, right? But if he goes and saves the Milwaukee, saves the Giannis era in Milwaukee, I don't know, man. You could look up and he gets $35 to $40 million a year at the end of that, right?
But
he'd have to perform. And here's the thing: Bradley Beal this year, averaged 17 points a game, 4 assists. He shot 49.7% from the field, 38.6% from three, 80% from the line. Was the third option, but was pretty good offensively. And I thought he played more aggressively on defense than what we've seen previously. I don't want to sit here and call Bradley Beal a good defender because he's not, but I think that he is capable of ramping back up into being a 22, 23 point per game scorer on not terrible efficiency.
So that's what I'd have to convince myself of, is that Bradley Beal was way overpaid in Phoenix because it didn't make sense with Devin Booker in the backcourt and Kevin Durant, and it's just too much of all of that other stuff. And that in Milwaukee, when it's kind of him and Giannis, and it's this two-man combination that doesn't necessarily operate the same way in all of the same spaces and all of that, you can maximize whatever is left of Bradley Beal. I would have to think more on and convince myself that I believed in that for me to really consider this. I love stuff like this. Like I think it's really interesting because my initial thought is no. Like I love trades that I'm like, no way. And then when you think about it, you're like, oh, maybe this is interesting from both sides.
And Lillard might be a better fit with Booker than Beal is moving forward. They have the same number of years on their deal left. Like,
and especially for Dame, like coming off this Achilles, he may turn into like more of an off the ball catch and shoot off. Like, who knows like what his player type is, coming off of this injury at his age. So, yeah.
Dirty Dancer asks, what's the reason for Phoenix to do it? I mean, I don't think they're getting off the Bradley Beal deal because of A, he might not accept it somewhere else, and B, without giving up picks. Like, if you can do this without giving up picks, I don't know. That seems not crazy to me, in all honesty.
Yeah. Like I said,
and look, like, to be clear, I'm not saying that this is like an answer for the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm just saying that if they are trying to keep Giannis,
correct.
This might be doing this and then like going out and finding a deal for Kuzma and going out and finding like another deal, right? Like that might be the route in some way, shape, or form in order to keep Giannis if they want to keep him, right? Which it's Giannis. I would imagine that will be their first goal. Is to try and keep him. Now, like, do I think they will be successful? And do I think Giannis will look at this idea as like, oh my God, let's do this, right? Like, let's Bradley Beal, I'm in, right? I don't know. Like, he might not. He might think that it's not good enough. And he might say that he wants out. And, the teams that people will bring up, I think people will bring up Oklahoma City. I don't see Oklahoma City doing this, in all honesty. It would probably have to involve Jalen Williams, I would imagine. And the difference in contract there is just vast, right?
Yep.
It's just it's an enormous amount of money.
I might change my answer here in 2 weeks if the Thunder get knocked off by the Nuggets or Clippers, but as it stands right now, I would say no.
Yeah. Second team here would be the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
And like you could do Şengün and stuff, right? The third team that people will point to is San Antonio with like Steph Castle and stuff, maybe to pair him with Wemby. Sure. Like sounds interesting to me. I'm trying to think like Orlando is a team I've seen.
Does Miami have the assets to even get involved?
I think they will certainly try. I just don't know what it is unless Milwaukee really wants to continue contending and just like loves Bam and is willing to do like a Kawhi Leonard like Bam deal with Toronto. But the difference is that, Toronto had all of its picks moving forward and could kind of pivot off of everything else. So I don't see that as like a really great, or they had most of their picks. They weren't out like 6 years worth of picks. I'm trying to think of like anything like any other teams. I mean, Memphis, I'm sure will try. They have all their picks, but to me, like it has to involve you getting like an all-star plus picks back, which is why like, I don't think Oklahoma City, this just doesn't feel Oklahoma City to me, in all honesty. I think that Houston remains the one that, like, I think this is what Houston has been waiting for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think Houston's been waiting for a guy like this to come free and for them to be able to take a shot on this. And, you could do Şengün and, whatever else, basically. Like to me, it has to involve Şengün if I'm Houston, because I don't think Şengün and Giannis work together, like in any way, shape, or form. So I'm saying like part of the value equation here is definitely Şengün. And that's not disrespect to Şengün. I think, we'll talk about that series in a second here real quick, but he has played outside of the finishing like fairly well, I think, and shown himself well in this series.
Yeah.
But, it's Giannis, right? Like all due respect to Alperin, but it's Giannis, right?
Yep.
The other thing to consider here with Milwaukee is, can they get enough assets and again, we're going to go through this all again when we do their offseason preview. So like, this will be the last thing I say. Can you get assets that New Orleans and the Trailblazers like that will allow you to reacquire your picks? Is there a chance that Portland really likes Amen Thompson? And would you be willing to do like Amen Thompson for, you know, all 3 of your picks back or something like that, plus other stuff from Portland? Like, is that a better value equation for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on which way they want to go in terms of what they can. I just think there's different paths, right? Like, you acquire real NBA players, you can go that path. You could acquire young talent and like say, okay, well, these are the quote unquote draft picks, so we'll just work with that. Or do you want to like completely break it down, trade off everything, Brooklyn Nets style, but you can't trade Mikal Bridges until you have your picks back from a different trade, right? And so I think it just depends on that path. If I wouldn't hate that path for them, but to your point, if you're going to trade Giannis and Kuz, like you're going to get rid of all of it, you got to go to Portland first and figure out how can we get these picks back? Who do you want? What do you want? What do we have to go get to make that happen? So I think there's a few different ways that they can go with it. I'm not sure which one I would choose off the top of my head, but man, it'll be fascinating. Seems like there's always this stuff and like people say it happens fast, right? I mean, Dame goes down, and again, like that's what sucks. Like that's what sucks is this is the driving force of this conversation being so strong right now. But we go from Dame goes down to immediately, and I think rightfully so. What does this mean long term for Giannis? And these are the discussions we're going to have all off season.
Yeah, and I do just want to be like very clear with people. Like, there is no number 2 option that is like off of the table here. There is like for Giannis, like there's just not going to be many guys that are off of the table in a trade. Like Wemby is one of them. Honestly, like I think I would be surprised if a team would move Cooper Flag for Giannis, given that Giannis is 30 and Cooper is 19 and you have him for 9 years here moving forward. But like, I think I am the biggest Amen Thompson fan that you will find in like the national media. I had him freaking defensive player of the year this year. I thought he was their best player from like the time he entered the starting lineup onward. Amen Thompson is not off the table for Giannis, just point blank. If you're Houston, that's the reality. And it sucks. You don't want to move these guys, but you know, Giannis is a truly, truly special talent. And unless you've made an all NBA team or, you know, like I think that Orlando would consider things on Paulo. Like, I think that they would like stop and look and they'd try and do Franz first. Like, I don't know. I think Orlando probably wouldn't do Paulo, but like, I'm not certain of that.
It's crazy, right? I mean, like just the value is really interesting. And what's weird is we just had a superstar get traded and like, we can't even use that as a precedent because I don't think that anybody thinks that's the way it should have looked, you know? And so the idea of Giannis on the move and what it would actually take to acquire him, I don't know. It's kind of crazy, right? It's crazy. So
the closest parallel that came to my mind, if this is true, and again, this is now where we will actually finish, is I think it'd be closest to like the Kevin Garnett deal. And I think prices have gone up since then. So like it'd be more than what the Timberwolves got for Garnett. But like that's what this reminds me of most, I guess. Like a guy who was in Minnesota forever and like, you know, was so attached to that city, and you know, eventually they just like got to the point where they couldn't compete and he had to ask out. Like, and that was the reality.
I mean, we're bringing GMAC on in a little bit. We should just ask him, like, if Mikal Bridges is worth 5 first-round picks, what does that mean Giannis is worth?
Yeah, I think that that's not even just like an applicable amount of money or like asset value at a certain point. Yeah, I just, people in the comments keep bringing up Oklahoma City. look, if they want to do it, they can do it. I'm just going to be honest and say that I don't see this as an look. Maybe they lose early and
That's what I'm gonna say. Like
something changes, but
I,
it just doesn't feel like their organization.
And my thing is, like, I don't know. Maybe I think that the Thunder are better than other people think. I think they have a real chance to win the title this year. They may not. They may lose next round. If they go win the title, I don't know why then they would trade for Giannis whenever they have like all of these dudes under contract and they're younger and they're going to grow and they have all of these picks and everything. Like they have the most flexibility you could really want. Eventually the money stuff will start catching up because these guys will have to get paid. But it just, I guess I would like to see how this playoffs plays out for the Thunder before I consider them as one of the first teams I think of in this scenario.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, GMAC. I'm kicking a horse when it's down. I apologize.
We'll move on here and move forward. Let's get into a quick little ad break. Shout out the good folks over at Skims. Whatever your usual complaints are about underwear, they are valid and they are always very applicable, be it comfort, be it fit, be it having to shop for it, be it like the trial and error that you have to like guess in terms of if it's going to fit, the design. It can just be really, really hard to buy underwear. And when you find an underwear that you really like, you do tend to stick with it. Like I feel like I've, for many, many years, generally been a person that sticks with the same underwear. But what I've got to tell you is that Skims underwear is just the absolute best. It's so comfortable. The fabric and the fit, it's just absolutely outstanding. It's soft. It's just perfect for my lifestyle personally at the end of the day. And I just absolutely really, really enjoy wearing Skims underwear. And the thing about Skims is that you just got to go over to Shop Skims Men's at skims.com, and you can go into Skims stores. You just let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Skims is the official underwear partner of the NBA, WNBA, and USA Basketball. I really just can't recommend Skims enough. They just make shopping for underwear so much easier. And they really, really have made life better in terms of underwear for me. So shout out to Skims. Go to skims.com and let them know that we sent you by selecting podcast in the survey and select our show from the drop-down menu. Okay. Before we get to like the, Knicks Pistons of this all, Orlando and Detroit, or Orlando and Boston, obviously. I watched very little of this game. I don't know that I need to like dive into like detail when we talk about this. Paulo ends up getting in foul trouble. As soon as he gets his fifth foul, the Celtics go on just this massive run. What I will say is up until that moment, it was super tight. It was super competitive. It was tough. It was physical basketball again. And I think that the Celtics will probably be better off from having played Orlando in this series, if only because I think that Orlando, like, credit to them, like really made the Celtics lock in some respect in order to kind of finish this out. Like Tatum goes for 35. He was just like completely ridiculous tonight. 35, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 turnovers, goes 10 of 16 from the field, 11 of 11 from the line. Jaylen Brown was pretty solid. Sam Hauser made all of his shots. Peyton Pritchard goes for 10. I thought the bench unit in that third quarter particularly was really outstanding. Yeah, it's just, the Celtics are moving forward.
Yeah, I think it was an important win for them to rest up, get healthy. Obviously, we've only seen Drew Holiday in 2 games of this series. Tatum only, had missed 1. And now they're going to get to rest for, I think it sounds like if New York wins on Thursday, it sounds like game 1 would be on Sunday. If Detroit is able to take it to 7, it'd be like Monday or Tuesday. But, Boston's going to get 5 days to 7 days of rest here, while the Knicks, or I guess theoretically, possibly the Pistons, are still beating the crap out of each other in this series. And so that's a huge advantage to the Celtics by closing this out in 5. And, you know, we've talked about it before. Paolo and Franz in this series, you know, like they got to get other stuff around them offensively, but these guys end up, you know, Paolo averaging almost 38.5 and 4, Franz 26, 5 and 5.5. 3-point shooting from Franz, not great, but other than that, you know, Paolo could have been better from the free throw line, but got there a lot. 2 really, really good wings in this league. They got to build out that roster around them other than Jalen Suggs.
And look, we'll talk about the Orlando Magic again when we do the, you know, off-season preview. But like you said, for the love of God, just get them shooting. Like it's got to be like a creative guard who can shoot, like a Anthony Simons, a CJ McCollum, like somebody who can just take the pressure off Paulo and Franz. Like I've seen people complaining about the way that like Paulo is playing right now. It like just in terms of the mid-range jumpers and like the, you know, the passing has been up and down. Like he had a couple of games in this series that I thought were really, really good as passer, but by and large, like it's been up and down, I think is fair. To me, it's just like, what are we doing? This dude is ridiculous in terms of creating mismatches and advantages. And they really just need to find a way to surround him with shooters that can take some pressure off of him and Franz. Franz has been great in this series too. They've both been inefficient, but it's just like, what do you want them to do around what they have? You know, the last thing I do just want to note here, obviously Tatum misses game 2 in this series with that, what is it, thumb injury or wrist? I can't remember. It's one of the two. The 3 games since he's been back, 36-9-4, 37-14-3, 35-8-10. And again, this is against a top 5 defense. This is like a defense that has been ridiculous throughout the regular season. And the whole thing that they're doing is trying to make life miserable for the Boston Celtics right now. There's a reason that the Celtics in, you know, the first 3 games of the series that Tatum played, 103, 93, 107 for a offense that, you know, is among the best in league history, basically. The fact that Tatum is doing this, he, to me, has been the best player in the playoffs so far. It's like him and Jokic. Like I'll hear out a case for Jokic because I'm never going to argue against Jokic, but Tatum has just been unbelievable so far for the Boston Celtics in those 3 games. And like, I just really can't kind of get past that at this point. Like, I don't know if I would take, like, I wouldn't take Tatum if I had to win 1 game over Jokic, but just purely in terms of performance to me, like Tatum has just been lights out in these last 3 games.
It is kind of funny or fun just to like look at playoff numbers for the entire league. Cause the other guy we've already talked about, Giannis, like when you just look at his numbers, Sam, 5 games, he put up 33, 15, and 6.5. Just ridiculous. But yeah, Tatum, I mean, he's averaging a double-double in these playoffs. Just a really good performance from him so far. We're getting a lot of really high-level play, and he's right there at the top.
The last series I want to talk just briefly about before we get into Pistons, Knicks, Thunderdome with you and GMAC. The Rockets and the Warriors played last night. Jimmy Butler came back. A genuinely hilarious basketball game. I just want to shout out like everybody involved in that game for making me laugh consistently. Between all of the antics of Draymond Green,
oh my gosh,
you know, like almost kicking like Eason in the back of the head, and Dylan Brooks fighting with Jimmy Butler on the free throw line, like a truly obscene, stupid basketball game. And I appreciate everyone involved. Like I enjoyed watching it. It was fun to watch. Having said that, like, I don't know where you are on this, but this feels almost exactly like what we expected from the Houston Rockets in the playoffs to me. Sure. Don't have enough offensive juice. Have to get by like with Steven Adams, like trying to like be super physical in these double big lineups, hoping that Alperen Şengün can, be efficient enough on the interior to be able to score, despite the fact that they have no shooting, hoping for like good guard performances from Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green, and just not having enough shooting at the end of the day. Like they don't have enough shot creation and shooting that is efficient enough to consistently win games. And that's kind of what we thought it might be in the playoffs from them. And it's borne itself out against the Warriors. And that's just kind of the reality.
Yeah, I mean, they got 25-6 with 8 threes from Fred VanVleet and still didn't end up being enough. And they got 31 from Şengün. Now, my biggest qualm with Şengün now is I am nervous about the finishing. It was something we talked about throughout the regular season.
The entire year we've talked about it. And it's been a thing.
It's been a thing. I like everything else. I like his aggressiveness. I like the way he attacked. And he is going up against Draymond, who is probably the toughest matchup for him because of who Draymond is as a defender. But it's just something to watch for moving forward with him for sure. How about Brandon Podziemski in this game? Obviously, Jimmy Butler was. And then Buddy Hield, like all of a sudden a defensive contributor. I love Jimmy's quotes. I think these are actual quotes. Hopefully I'm like not getting got by some like account, but like Jimmy was like something about Buddy's defense and then like kind of took a shot at him still or whatever. But
Steve Kerr in the locker room like said, I thought that Buddy really keyed us on defense tonight, and that's the first time that anybody has ever said that about Buddy Hield. Like, it's amazing. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, shout out Buddy Hield. And I don't want to like Jalen Green had a rough night, Sam. I feel like when Jalen Green deserves love, we are the first podcast to give him love. We come on and we sing his praises. Last night it wasn't just like missed shots. It was the turnovers. It was not a good Jalen Green night. It would be good to see him respond in Game 5 because he had the one explosive game in, was it Game 2? Game 2. The other 3 games outside of Game 2, not great. So
how many points do you think Jalen Green has in this series in games 1, 3, and 4 combined?
I did the math. So
24 total.
24. Yeah.
Yeah. 24 total. He scored 38 in Game 2. It's just not good enough from Jalen Green. And it's the problem has always been the consistency, right? We talked about it even after Game 2, right? We were ready to give him his flowers, but that's what we said. It is always with Jalen Green, the night to night consistency. Can he bring it on a regular basis? And he just doesn't. And to me, like this is why the contract like never made sense to give him, right? Like he is a guy where it's either going to look amazing in the playoffs and it's going to go great, or it's going to go absolutely terrible. And it's done both of those things in the playoffs so far, but mostly been abjectly terrible.
I also want to give a shout out to Steph Curry. I think there was a graphic that said he's third behind Jokic and Brunson in percentage of teams' points created in the playoffs. That was going into the game. And those numbers don't even account for his just gravity. You know, the plays where there's a split action where 2 people commit to him, Pods caught a back door, kicks to Butler attacks a closeout, kicks to back to Pods for a 3. That only happens because of Steph's gravity initially. And so I think this has been a reinforcement of how good he is. And even in a game where he only had 17 points on 13 shots and 3 assists and 4 turnovers, like you look at those box scores and it's pedestrian for Steph Curry. I don't think you can understate what he creates for his teammates by simply existing on the court, let alone the energy he puts in running around, setting screens, all of those different things that he does. And so when I get a chance to give Steph Curry some love, I always got to take advantage.
Well, and like Jimmy Butler is the other guy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like Dylan Brooks, like, awakened a giant last night. Like, what are you doing? 27 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 7 of 12 from the field, 12 of 12 from the line, like 0 turnovers. The guy is just a monster, and last night the Miami Heat season ends in truly just abysmal fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, like it was funny whenever, I said on the last show, there has never been a series that is more over than the Miami Heat Cleveland Cavs series. Didn't expect that. I knew it was over. I didn't expect it to be 50 points over, but
that was rough.
It's something for sure. So, having Jimmy go for 27, 5 and 6 and lead his team to victory on the night where the Heat get absolutely demolished. What can you do?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So look, like I think the Warriors win the series at this point. I said in 6 before it. I guess we'll continue to say in 6. Maybe the Rockets get a game here, back at home, back at home for Game 5, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, okay. Are we ready for Knicks Pistons Game 5?
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's bring up Andrew. Our guy is coming onto the stream, straight-faced, sad, disappointed, frustrated, just an icon of our business, GMAC. Andrew Claudio, how are you doing, buddy?
Been better. Say that much. I would like to let people know, because we said this off the air in our conversation after Game 4. You guys called this, that the Pistons winning in the Garden is the most likely scenario and potentially leading to them losing in 6. But
I think Bryce called it on the show as well. I think he said that they play better on the road than at home, and they will win Game 5.
I've consistently said this. What I've said behind the scenes, because I didn't want Pistons fans to get pissed at me, was Detroit would win Game 5 and then break people's hearts in Game 6 and continue the playoff home losing streak. And now I'm like terrified that I actually spoke it into existence.
Oh no, Bryce. Don't you worry, Bryce, because there's a cure for that, and it's the New York Knicks and their tendency for unserious performances, which, look, we'll break it down as much as you guys want to, but it felt like they got a gift. No, it didn't feel like they got a gift in Game 4, and we're giving control back of the series. They could have put this team in its place as the less talented team, and maybe, I don't know, pretend like you are the team that was supposed to come into this season with championship aspirations after you traded everything from Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns. And my goodness, you guys just had a Giannis conversation, and you know who you didn't mention once? The team that spent years and years not trading for Donovan Mitchell, not going after this star, not going after that star, and decided to go all in on Jalen Brunson's other roommate that we probably didn't like, and Karl Anthony Towns, who has been just fine, except tonight he wasn't. Like, I've been fine with the Karl Anthony Towns experience this season. Tonight I was not fine with the Karl Anthony Towns experience. We got a cat game in the worst way tonight. And now, like, the pivot is basically, do you think the coach is optimizing the roster? If not, or like just run it back and maybe you get lucky with an MLE. I know I'm talking about it like the season's over, and it's not. The Knicks are actually winning this series. Bryce had the audacity minutes ago to be like, well, in this world, this theoretical world where the Pistons force a Game 7, Bryce, the theoretical world where the Pistons force a Game 7 is also the same world where they win Game 7, which is the world we're living in, Bryce. It's all on the table. This Knicks team does not have the same arrogance, the same chutzpah, the same, like, bleep you that I thought this team had last year, where I was ready for war against Philly. Now I'm just hoping they survive against the Pistons team whose second best player rotates. So, yeah, I'm good. I'm great, Sam. That's the answer to your question. The Mets won tonight. That's my saving grace. I'm gonna have a fun summer watching baseball.
So, a couple of things here. Sar Thompson was fantastic tonight. 22
Incredible.
points, 7 rebounds. It just was so critical. Played really good defense on Jalen Brunson. Was really active. I thought that he was the key more than anything else. And we talked about that on the last episode, that he needs to be really, really excellent in this game. And he was really, really critical.
I want to point out one thing real quick, Sam. I thought JB positioned Asar's minutes perfectly in this game, because Asar Thompson is not going to play 40 minutes a night. I'll look it up while we're talking here. He played 30 plus minutes a handful of times the entire regular season. So what JB did was he matched Asar's minutes to start halves and to finish halves. And I thought he played it perfectly in regards to that.
Yeah, the second guy here, Cade, obviously goes for 24, 8, and 8. I thought it was fine, Cade Knight. Like I thought that he was, as good as he typically is. Right?
Really good in
like
the fourth quarter. Really good in the fourth
excellent
quarter.
in the fourth quarter. Yeah, like it wasn't like a blown out of the water performance. Honestly, the guy that I thought, showed up tonight was Jalen Duren as much as anything. Jalen Duren has 9 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists. The Knicks continued to blitz Cade Cunningham as a ball screen creator, oftentimes because the Pistons brought up guard-to-guard screening actions a decent amount of the time, particularly involving Jalen Brunson, and they've been trapping the whole series when that happens. And I thought Duren particularly did an amazing job hitting Asar Thompson in those moments, being able to create shots for him as a short roll passer. I did think, the Knicks didn't really show up in a big way in this game. Jalen Brunson, 16 points on 4 of 16 from the field and has 4 turnovers, right? Asar did a great job, but Jalen just did not play well in any way, shape, or form in this game. Hit like an insane, ridiculous, spinning 3 that I thought was going to be like a backbreaker for the Pistons.
Yeah.
And the Pistons kind of overcame that and got their shit back together, which was really, really critical. I thought the 2 guys, Cat, we're going to save for his own conversation tonight, but the 2 guys that kept them in this game to me were OG and Mitchell Robinson. I thought they were the 2 that played obscenely well tonight. OG defensively did a really good job on Cade, making his life really, really hard. Obviously made some critical shots, made some really big contested shots, both from the mid-range and from 3. And then Mitchell Robinson's energy and effort and ability to create second chances was maybe the whole reason that the Knicks were in this game. They are not in this game without Mitchell Robinson. I feel comfortable saying that for sure.
Are you aware of the OG Anunoby and Hathaway connection? Either of you?
No, I know the Suni Lee
it's both
thing,
of them,
but not the Ann Hathaway one.
In the 4 games that Ann Hathaway and Suni Lee sat courtside at Madison Square Garden, it's rumored or theorized, I should say, that it's just the thing that gets OG Anunoby activated. That he just likes to impress the very famous, potentially very attractive women sitting courtside. And it's why a lot of us were prepared for an OG Anunoby game when Ann Hathaway tweeted out a picture of her on her way to MSG. And when he hit 3 blocks in the first quarter, it was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. We're going to get an OG Anunoby game. So yeah, it was good to see OG have a game like that, wherever his motivations came from. And yeah, we got an old school Mitch game. We really haven't seen that this season.
Yeah.
He's been limited to an extent. I thought he played his best minutes for sure. Even when, at respect to Bickerstaff, went to the hack of Mitch at one point, and in back-to-back stints, Mitch went 1 of 2 from the line. I cannot get upset anytime he goes 1 for 2 from the free throw line. And he matched the possession battle that the Knicks were losing when he was out of the game. They were able to win it. And this is why I said to you guys in the group chat, I'll save the Cat conversation for later, but the issue they've been running into at the beginning of the third quarter is that, and it's been an issue all season, when you have Cat and Jalen on the court, there are multiple places to attack, and one of them happens to be the rim, which is really tough to put a competent defense out there. And when you put Jalen Brunson plus 4+ defenders, including one of the best rim protectors in the league in Mitchell Robinson, you can turn things around. That 3 he hit, that circus 3 to make it, to cut a 10-point lead down to 7. Yeah, I yelled when we were watching it live, please make this matter. And the reason it was able to matter is because Mitchell Robinson was now in the game, and they were able to actually get stops on that end of the floor. And suddenly it's a 1-point game. And look, this game was 95 all with 4 minutes left. I thought they pushed enough right buttons to win, and then obviously what happened at the end of the game we'll talk about. But yeah, Mitch, it's a welcome thing that we haven't really seen all playoffs and since he's returned, and it brings up some interesting questions going into game 6 and 7.
So the thing I want to talk about from the Knicks perspective is I did see a lot of Knicks fans upset with Tibbs in this game. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't think Tibbs was anywhere near at fault here tonight.
For the loss,
like he made,
or like
yeah,
the game stuff with the timeout?
No, for the loss in general. Like, the reason they lost tonight is because Karl Towns was not an engaged defender and was super late on his rotations, or like in the case of the crazy like spinning pass at the rim that Cade made to Asar in order to, if I remember correctly, that might end up have been the winning basket, right? Like, Cat was supposed to be guarding like 1-on-2 sort of in that circumstance at the rim. And he was just standing upright and like didn't have his arms out, didn't have anything
that actually
wasn't engaged in what was happening.
Yeah,
that extended the lead to 6, and then we had the Bridges and Anunoby threes after. So Detroit had gone on a little mini run, but what's crazy about that play, Sam? The Pistons spacing was disgusting. No, but the Pistons spacing was disgusting. Like, what was playing out was what we always talk about with Asar and Duran. They were occupying the same space, and Tobias Harris had cut in from the corner, and Cat still didn't guard everybody. Like, he literally could have put his arms straight out and deflected a pass, and
all he had to do.
And he didn't. And yes, Cade with great vision, Asar with a great cut, finding the open space. There should not have been open space based on the Pistons' offensive spacing in that scenario.
Yeah,
I rewound it and was like, how does this happen? And like,
no, like unacceptable for it to happen. But like, I think Cade like noticed it and like saw like, oh, his arms are down. I'm just going to zip this ball right into this tight window and drill it. Like, yeah. I mean, completely crazy. And then the timeouts thing at the end, like, and not having Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart off the court or on the court while they're standing at the scorer's table. The Knicks only had one timeout. I mean, GMAC, you might be able to speak to this better. I don't remember exactly how the Knicks used their timeouts in this game necessarily, and if they were like, wildly intelligently used. But when you have one timeout left in a super tight game and you get to advance the ball with one timeout, I think you kind of have to save the timeout. In all honesty, like, I think you have to trust that, okay, like Mikal and OG are out there and Towns is out there, like, I think that these guys can go get us shots, and hopefully there's a stoppage and we'll get these guys on. Like, I didn't have a problem with this one, in all honesty.
So I have no issue with the timeout thing either. I think so. Just for those who didn't get to watch the game, we'll break it down as best as possible. So the Knicks actually had 4 timeouts remaining with about 5 minutes left, and they looked gassed. I don't know if that's what you guys both caught, that like OG Anunoby is walking up the court and there was no way they were subbing him out. And so Tibbs calls a timeout with around 5 minutes left. Cade's at the line for 2 free throws, and he calls it in between the free throws to ice him, but also to give the guys a break. 2 possessions go by. I think Cade actually hits a 3 to make it 95-90. He calls another timeout, and it's like, all right, let's get another breather. Let's come back. They tie the game at 95 on that trailing Cat 3 from the logo. Then they come back down, and Jalen Brunson steps wrong. He's limping. Josh Hart and Cat go to contest, I believe it was a Cade runner or a floater. Josh Hart lands wrong, like it runs into one. Somebody hits Josh Hart. He lands wrong on his wrist, like from the air, full contact on his wrist. He's now injured and not getting up. And on the floater, it was missed, and Duran slams it home, 97-95. And now, like, Jalen Brunson's limping and Josh Hart's not getting up. Tibbs now has to use another timeout. And Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson are out of the game all of a sudden. Like, Campaign and Deuce McBride come in. You don't know how long you're going to be without them. And then suddenly you see both of them limp to the scorer's table, and you're waiting for a stoppage. I like in that situation, it's so unique that I can't really blame Tibbs for like, okay, these guys are they can't foul to get them back in the game. If I call a timeout, I'm without a timeout in a possession in a game. I'm now down by 2 possessions because the Knicks didn't get a shot. The Pistons did. Like the hope was these guys going to have to score and we're going to have to get a stop and then I'll call a timeout and then get these guys back in. And it just never happened. The lead extended to 6 all of a sudden, and he finally called a timeout, but now the damage was done. That's that side of things. If I could speak to why the outcry from Knicks fans maybe about Tibbs, I don't know if it's...
To be clear,
go ahead.
Just real quick, like, I'm not saying he shouldn't be fired at the end of the year even. I'm particularly talking about this game specifically. Right. I have my issues with how Tibbs is like utilizing their offensive players and their pieces and everything. Like I won't have a problem if he gets fired.
That's the issue then. That's the issue that you're speaking to.
Yeah. This game particularly though, like I don't look at this game going, this was Tibbs's, the reason they lost is Tibbs. You know what I mean?
We have a phrase. I think DJ, you heard this when you were with us at Knicks Film School. The players have agency. And when you're in the individual game, going like your first thought after the game being like, I need to speak to the manager, is just not the way we like to do things. However, to your point about the offensive optimization, that this team has so much talent and there's so little player and ball movement in this offense that the Pistons, like respect to the Pistons, I thought this is how competitive both of us thought they would be going into the series. When we did that preview, Bryce, Sam, you picked them to win the series, so obviously you thought this would be a competitive series. But like them, I
still think they would have won if they had Isaiah.
Oh yeah,
Stewart.
they'd be over by like now. I get it. I completely
get
it.
Yeah.
Like, so like the Pistons defense figuring out the league's 5th best offense with all of this offensive firepower in 5 games and maybe even in 4. It's why the Tibbs frustration is what it is. So speaking to maybe this game isn't on him, and I would agree with you, especially with how Cat played and how Brunson played, and like they missed 11 free throws. Cat like Tibbs isn't at the line. The overall frustration with him is that we thought this was supposed to be a juggernaut of an offense, and like just going around the rest of. Go ahead.
It should be a juggernaut of an offense. Like forget like you guys thought it. It should be a juggernaut of an offense.
So that's I think the thing that people are running into. His offenses that have been top 5, top 10 in the past are based on the possession battle. They're low turnover, they're heavy isolation, a ton of drives, and they don't have that personnel anymore. And he's tried to fit the personnel into his style and not vice versa, where he adjusts to what the personnel dictates. Now, the funny thing is, I don't know what the adjustment is for the rest of this series. That we were saying it on playback tonight. I don't like the Pistons seem to have figured out the Knicks. Like they figured out their offense, and the way the Knicks scored points tonight was Mitchell Robinson had 8 offensive rebounds, and they outscored the Pistons 19-12 in or off of turnovers, but they had like a bunch of 14 second chance points as well. But like they forced turnovers and they got out in transition and they got offensive rebounds. Their half-court offense is awful at the moment. And if it's just based on incredible shot making and incredible tough shot making, like they have entirely too much offensive firepower for me to then go into next season thinking this is like status quo and the roster is being optimized. I am with you though. Like this loss isn't on Tibbs, and it's why the balancing act you try to do with the big picture versus the micro of the game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, look, like big picture since the All-Star break, I mean, you know this, like they were 18th in offensive rating and they dealt with injuries. Like Jalen Brunson went out.
The Brunson injury.
Like,
yeah.
Let's not sit here and act like there's not a reason for why they dropped, but like even in the games where Brunson was there, it didn't feel all that sweet. You know what I mean? It felt like they were kind of slowly but surely, like methodically leaning back into Tibbsy ball.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, early in the season, it was a more free flowing offense that looked a little bit cleaner to me.
Do you guys remember? It was a while ago, but around Christmas, yeah, because Mikal Bridges had 41 points against Wemby, and I was celebrating, and you guys were teasing, like, look at their schedule, Andrew. Come on. I was like, yeah, but they've won 8 straight. Like, get off me. And I was doing the thing. And then they entered a stretch from January 2nd on that they had the toughest schedule in the NBA remaining. From January 2nd to the end of the year, they had, I believe, the 11th best offense with this offensive firepower, the 11th best offense. And if you want to take out the Brunson sample, when Brunson was out and they had a bottom 11 offense. So from January 2nd to April 6th, I think it goes up to 10th. Like, you barely crack a top 10 offense over that stretch. Yeah. And it's like the defense got significantly worse over that stretch too, which makes it even more of an issue. And then you add in that the like the way that they end up finishing 13th in defense this season is because of that Tibbsy ball stretch without Brunson, where they were a top 5 defense. Like, he has a way he likes to do things, which I've grown to love. Last year, that was a Tibbs team. This is not it. And it's why them struggling to get out of the first round with the Pistons, who, like, I joked around, they deserve so much credit for what this series has become. A very fun, objectively, like, hits my heartstrings of how I grew to watch basketball in the 90s. Like, I love the throwback. I also see that this team, and believe that this team should be getting more offensively than struggling to get to 100 points against the Detroit Pistons. Personally, Bryce, I mean, as someone who watches the Pistons, am I not giving them enough credit?
I mean, no, what I was going to say was the Knicks are 11th in the playoffs in offensive rating right now. You're the 11th team in offensive rating, barely above the Detroit Pistons, who have a rotating second option, to your point. Like, I think it may have rotated every game this series, and it was Asar Thompson tonight. This, and so it's... And I guess my thing is, it's a Pistons team whose second best defender hasn't played other than game 1, and whose best defender, the fan base, if they've been pissed about one thing, hasn't played enough minutes. Like, Asar's only played 20 minutes a night up until game 5 tonight. And then it's a bunch of defenders of, like, Malik Beasley's doing this to you, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Duren, who me and Sam have critiqued all year long on the defensive end. Now, overall, it is a top 10 defense. So in respect to the Pistons, it's not like it's a bad defense. It's just like, to your point, this was supposed to be an elite offense that would be elite still against a number 10 defense. Maybe if they're playing the Thunder, you're like, okay, well, I understand why they're not just like putting up crazy numbers. And I'm not trying to take credit away from the Pistons at all right now here. Like, I give them tons of love, but just to hammer your point home, I understand Knicks fans' frustrations that the offense isn't better in this series. So
one quick clarification before I go back to you, Sam. So I went and actually refound the numbers that we've been quoting a lot over the second half of the season. Since January 2nd, the Knicks have the 16th best offense in the NBA since January 2nd. If you take out to that Brunson sample, that night of the Laker game where he sprained his ankle and then was out for a month. So discount that stretch where they had a bottom 12 offense, 12th. So they were just barely above league average. That's what they were when they weren't having the easiest schedule in the NBA for the first 2.5 months and actually have to play teams that are in the playoffs right now. You've quoted all year what they are against top 10 teams, both wins and losses, both net rating, and obviously what their offense is. It's why the questions around Tibbs exist. As far as this game is concerned, your captain went 4-16. Your second best player was largely awful. And if you want to make this the transition to the cat conversation, we can. And like a small sliver of the blame pie going to Deuce McBride, who's just on offense. This is a guy that a lot of people were saying will be a starter by game 5 because the spacing issues are going to be a problem. And this guy is shooting 25% from the field, 27%. 25% from 3, 26% from the field in this series. Like, he's just disappeared on offense.
So like, I've kind of said like what I need to say about Cat. Like he was just really bad on defense tonight, more than anything to me. But like, to your point on the structure of the offense, like there's no way that Tobias Harris should be able to effectively guard Karl Anthony Towns. Like, you should be running him off of screens. You should be posting him consistently. You should be making life harder. And Tobias Harris is like, I think long been like an underrated one-on-one defender. Like this isn't shots at Tobias Harris. Like, he's dealt with Siakam in the playoffs before. Like, he's dealt with Giannis in the playoffs before. I'm not saying he's done these things like wildly successfully, but like he has a lot of experience dealing with these tough matchups and having to like body up on dudes. Right. he should not be able to have 17 points and 8 rebounds and 4 blocks while also affecting Karl Towns defensively. Like, he should run out of steam if you're playing offense the right way at the end of the day. He should not be able to be like consistently, like I would argue, you know, all due respect to Asar, like I would say Tobias was their second option tonight, more so than Asar, even though Asar had all the points, because so much of Asar was just like cutting baseline and finding
play finishing,
you know,
opportunistic. Yeah.
Totally. And he was amazing at it. And I'm not taking shots at Asar in any way, but like Tobias was the number 2 guy tonight. Like, he shouldn't be able to be the number 2 option and also effectively take Karl Anthony Towns. Like, I don't want to say he was like out of the game offensively because he still had 17 points, but like Cat didn't make life all that hard on the other end either. And like part of that, like Cat's help defense was the problem tonight more than anything. But yeah, it's something right now, guys.
Tobias played 43 minutes, had 17, 8, 2, 2, and 4 on 13 field goal attempts. And Cat went 17 and 11 on 14 attempts. Like, if Tobias Harris is playing, like, let's just say that's equal. I mean, box score wise, I would say Tobias won the matchup tonight, and it kind of is a direct matchup, at least on one end of the floor. If Tobias is neutralizing that matchup, like, what's the biggest advantage we've talked about all series from the preview GMAC? It's not even specific. It's the Knicks have a second option and the Pistons don't. The Pistons' second best player could literally be one of 7 players on any given night.
No. So I disagree with this for what it's worth.
Ooh.
I think it is specifically if Isaiah Stewart is not playing, Cat is the specific matchup. It's not the fact that they have like a second guy every single night that could be the number 2 option, right? Like some nights it'll be OG, some nights it'll be McKenna.
No. I'm saying Detroit has that. I'm saying Detroit. I think you misunderstood what I said.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm saying the fact that New York has Cat as a second option is the biggest advantage because Detroit doesn't. Because Detroit's second option could rotate from one night to the next.
I see what you're saying. Okay, I thought you were saying that New York's option could rotate.
No. I'm not. No. Yeah, sorry. Maybe I'm said it backwards. But anyway, we've said that from the start that was the biggest advantage New York had was, okay, number 1 options. Okay, number 2 options. Big advantage New York.
I thought Tobias had the most important stretch of well, maybe not the most important stretch of the game, but an important stretch. I saw you noted it in your notes, Bryce. Like, he got smacked in the face in the second quarter.
Yes. Yep.
Knicks had just gone up 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
he drove offense there in the second.
He went on a 7-0 run by himself to erase that lead. And this was like in the second unit. Asar was off the floor. Cade already had 3 fouls, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And I was like, could they stretch this out to 10 and then they're in the Garden and do the lights get bright? And no, he had the stretch that made this back into a game before we knew it. The Pistons were winning again. I didn't really get to say anything about Cade. The first half, I don't know how you guys felt, but
real quick, I just want to shout out Tobias.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Cade.
Go right ahead.
So like Tobias, like coming off of the season he had in Philly last year, like was very bad in the playoffs. Like we can just say that. Was very actively bad. Coming into tonight, Tobias Harris was averaging 15.8 points, 8 rebounds, shooting 46, 40, 100 in this playoff series while taking the Cat assignment. Like, Tobias Harris has been awesome throughout the course of this series. He has been genuinely great to the point where I just like really respect what he's done. Like that's like truly, I just think that we are probably not giving him enough flowers at this point. And sorry, Andrew, you can talk about Cade. Like Cade again was awesome tonight.
Well, so he got off to that slow start, 4 points at halftime, and it was half that he was in foul trouble, and I just thought he'd never found a rhythm. Second half, I mean, the way these third quarters have been going, the Knicks have lost every third quarter. The first 6-7 minutes, we call it the third quarter of doom in New York. That we know that no matter how big the lead is, in the first or second quarter. There will be a stretch in the third where they make us sweat, and it's kind of been that way for years. But especially in the fourth quarter where they were attacking Cat, they were attacking Brunson. We disagreed about Mikal Bridges' defense in the last game. I think this is now a third straight game Mikal Bridges has either been good to serviceable against Cade, and I thought Cade, even when he was having good defense played against him, was really good. So, I left last year's playoff series being really excited from an objective basketball fan standpoint about like Tyrese Maxey and when he could be, and now I'm gonna leave this year's series whenever it ends like, oh, Pistons have a dude, in Cade. Not that we didn't already know it, where he's going to land in All-NBA and where he's going to land in the MVP voting, but like, now this is a thing, and he's really shown it this series.
I wanted to see it in the playoffs, like straight up. I mean, you won't find a bigger Cade fan and supporter than me, but I mean, people would ask me, and I'm like, I'm not putting Cade over certain names until I see Cade actually perform in a playoff series, and now we are. Now we've seen a couple of the flaws. He's shooting awful from three, even throughout the series. And the turnovers have been an issue literally every game of the series. He's averaging almost 6 turnovers per game in the series and shooting 25% from three. But to me, that makes me more excited for what he could be, because it's like he's putting up 25, 8, and 8. While not making threes and turning the ball over at double what he should be. Those are things he could get better at. I'm not saying he will, but those are things he could get better at.
Well, it's even more why I think tonight was so impressive, that like the best player in the series. I knew I would sound like a homer when Sam said it was Cade after game 4. And I was like, actually, I think it's Jalen Brunson, but like it's because crunch time mattered to me, and Brunson coming off a game where he had 15 fourth quarter points and Cade having a bunch of turnovers, it's like, well, when the game matters, this is what these two players have looked like. And for Brunson to have the game he had tonight, for Cade, like facing elimination, 13 fourth quarter points, 1 turnover down, and largely put the game away too down the stretch. I thought that was it. Bryce, your term, data collection. We've now seen him learn from failure, which I think is the best way guys learn in anything, let alone in basketball. So he was outstanding tonight. I give him his props.
I was more excited for this game than any, because my first thought whenever the no call happened in game 4 was, we're going to find out if this team really responds. I've probably written the word respond 300 times on my Substack this year. And they've done it every time. They really had their backs against the wall. And as soon as that no call happened in game 4, my first thought was, they're down 3-1, going to feel like they just got screwed by the refs, and they're going back to Madison Square Garden. There is no bigger test for this team to respond to than this right now. And I mean, they showed up tonight. And here's the thing. Their 2 veteran floor spacers still ain't hitting shots.
Nope.
Both of those guys are down at 30%. For the Malik Beasley was like bad today. He had an awful turnover. He had a 0% shot in transition, like what I call a 0% chance shot. Like there's no chance it was going in. And it's like they're still finding ways. Like there's, for all of the JB challenge, and so like I got to give JB a little bit of credit that with this roster and no Isaiah Stewart, no Jaden Ivey, he's taken the Knicks to at least 6. Like he's doing something right, even if it's just culturally and getting these guys to play hard and buy in.
All right. Closing thoughts here on this series.
Bryce,
we'll go Bryce first.
Yeah, Bryce go first. Yeah.
Okay. I have to, I know I put the thing into the world of like going back to LCA and all that, but Detroit fans don't deserve that. So I'm going to stick to my prediction. When the series started, Detroit figures out a way to win at LCA, and they go back to New York and they lose in game 7 with a 40-point performance from Cade Cunningham. So we're going to 7 on Saturday.
So I almost want to take that to the bank, Bryce. That this is going 7. This is absolutely going 7.
And Knicks win. That's what I said before. I guess I didn't reiterate that.
So I had Knicks in 7. You had Knicks in 7. Sam had Pistons in 7. So one of us will end up being right. The status of Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, I think, matters, because I know Brunson came back and we all think he's Superman here in New York, but there may be like that he wasn't 100%.
I mean, it's like the second straight game.
I say it's
He's
like
gone
yeah,
down.
it's
like, with
reoccurring, right? Like
Right.
this, the chance of it reoccurring again, even if he does start the game, has to be up a little bit.
Yeah. So him coming back from the ankle injury from the regular season to now in his like 5th playoff game where he's had an injury scare, it's like, okay, so we don't know what we're getting in game 6. He'll play. He'll probably be awesome because he's just, anytime I think, oh, this is the game that Jalen Brunson looks bad. And Josh Hart, we have a running joke that if like you shot him, he'd probably still be questionable. So I still think like Josh Hart will play in game 6, but his status is interesting. My only thing, I know I wrapped up with the story last time. I have another story. It's a very quick one, I promise. It's related to a Detroit Pistons. So when I was 16, no, when I was, what was 2008? I was 20 years old. And my little brother, who's 12 years younger than me, no siblings in between us. I was at like a church event on a Saturday. It was at a basketball gym. At least the church has a basketball gym, and all the kids that are his age are coming in, and they're having fun, and they're playing basketball. And because I'm the older one, I'm dominating the court, fellas. Like I'm just like I'm Shaq out there, and this is all the New Jersey Nets just not able to guard me. And someone says, "Hey, I brought someone from my school basketball team, so we have a chance, and I think you'll like playing with them." And it's like, "Oh, sure, bring them on, right?" And in walks 16-year-old Tobias Harris at 6'7". He's the only pro basketball player I've ever shared a court with, and it was very clear why at the end of the scrimmage that we all played. Why Tobias? Every time I see him, it's like, oh yeah, that I remember what that dunk looked like back then. I remember what having that shot swat back then looked like. So he said like, yeah, I'm considering offers, thinking about going to Tennessee. Like they're coming to all my games out on Long Island. So. Nassau County zone, Tobias Harris. I'm sure this means a lot to him after last year having his season end at the hands of his hometown team to now have a bit of redemption in New York. So kudos to you, Tobias. Rosalind says hi. Rosalind is a city in New York, by the way. It's a town in New York. I believe that's where he's from. Rosalind zone.
So the thing that worries me if I'm a Pistons fan going into game 6 is that Towns really responded after game 2.
Yeah.
And like really came back and like was pretty aggressive. I would guess that Tibbs is going to get into his ass like tonight and tomorrow after the defensive performance that we saw. And I think we're going to see a much better Cat in game 6. I don't know if it'll be enough to win. Look, like I said, Pistons in 7. I'll stick to 7. I think the Knicks very clearly have the advantage here, just being up 1 game already. But look, like, I do think that we see a much better, more engaged Cat, I think is my only prediction for game 6. Like, I think Cat will be drastically better.
I hope you're right, Sam. Very much hope you're right.
Okay. Andrew, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
You can find me over at Knicks Film School. We're breaking down the game pre, during, and after. We'll have a bit of a therapy session tomorrow in between games. If you want to check us out on Thursday before the game, we have something. During the game, we have something, and after the game, over on our YouTube channel. So search for us on YouTube or wherever podcasts are available, as well as on all socials. And like I said, the Mets won tonight. I am releasing these little TikToks to just not focus on a basketball team I've been frustrated about. So if you want to follow Mets Therapy, where it's been a lot of praise reports lately about how good life is going with the best record in baseball, by all means, look for that on social media as well.
Bryce, please tell the people where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Motor City Hoops Substack. If you want to follow along with this series, I'll probably have some sort of breakdown tomorrow looking at all the ball screen stuff for the Pistons offensively, how the Knicks defended it, how Detroit attacked it, and how it may look in game 6. So that's motorcityhoops.substack.com. The Pistons Pulse podcast. I think we're going live tomorrow talking about this series. If you guys want to check that out. I thought I was going to be able to announce some new content creation that was coming tonight, but that will be on hold for a touch longer. So we will see if I can announce that in a couple days. Otherwise, Game Theory podcast with the Sam Vecenie.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed. You will have a mock draft on Thursday. officially, that is the plan. Thursday, you will have a mock draft. I can confirm that for you. What else? Anything else coming? So tomorrow night, there are playoff games. If something interesting happens, like the Houston Rockets and the Los Angeles Lakers getting eliminated, like if both of those things were to happen, I think that we will probably have to go live, in all honesty, because that will be an interesting night of basketball. But both of those teams are at home, and they are both favored to win their games by about 5 points currently. So it seems unlikely that both things will occur at the very least. We will see what all happens. And then on the Thursday night, we have New York, Detroit. We have Denver, LA. At the very least, we will go live one of these 2 nights, if not 2 of these nights. We will see what happens. And then Friday, I mean, look, I think GMAC brought this up earlier. If Houston and LA win, or if Golden State and Minnesota win, we have a day off on Friday, boys. There's no basketball, and you never know. We might be able to actually relax. I might be able to go see Thunderbolts, maybe, might be able to actually catch up on movies that I haven't totally caught up on yet. Watch Conclave again last night. I'm prepping. I'm getting ready.
Oh, that's right. There's a conclave happening. That's right. Can I tell you the real reason I'm annoyed about today's game? Guess who was going to go see Sinners in IMAX if the Knicks were off on Thursday? But now I can't because they're not. So thank you, Karl Anthony Towns, for not appreciating cinema, sir.
That's really what happened here, because it's also leaving IMAX on Thursday, is it
That's
not?
literally my last day to see it, Sam. Like, there is one theater in Lincoln Center that I can, it's like the 70 millimeter IMAX that you could see it on. And I can't see it because I have to go watch them get punked in the LCA for some reason. Thank you, guys, for this very serious effort tonight.
Bryce, you had thoughts there.
I don't have thoughts.
Okay. Sinners is great in the. Is it 15 frame too?
It's the. I have no idea.
Mil?
It's the theater that like you usually like. I saw Oppenheimer there. I saw it's like the IMAX theater on the East Coast, I think. So
having done the 70 millimeter 15 frame of Sinners, very highly recommend. Very,
can't see it, Sam. They lost.
I think that so the current reporting is that they are bringing Sinners back in the fall.
Okay, great. When the Knicks have a new coach and the Pistons are celebrating getting to the second round, I'll go get to see Sinners. Great. Can't wait.
In the fall. So it'll be during the start of the NBA season, I think. Yeah, no. Look, I watched Lone Star. Have you ever seen Lone Star? Andrew?
No, Bryce, I'm so sorry we got started on movies. I'm so sorry I got us started.
Strong recommend. Strong recommend. John Sayles' Lone Star. I had a great time with it.
There you go.
We might talk a little bit more about some of the movies I've watched over the last little while at a different time, because Bryce, it is 1:47 a.m. your time. You got to go to bed. Go to subscribe to the Game Theory YouTube channel, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecenie. Go subscribe to Bryce the Substack. Go subscribe to The Athletic. Go subscribe to Knicks Film School. We have a lot of fun doing all of the things that we do here. We really appreciate all of you guys for subscribing, for hanging out with us during the playoffs. 27,000 subscribers already. I think we're well on our way to 28 already. We appreciate you guys immensely for coming and rocking with us and hanging out. Really just can't emphasize that enough. Like the amount of subscriber growth and everything over the playoffs has just been ridiculous. You guys have done an amazing job coming to hang out with us and listening to all of our bullshit. So thank you so much for that. Until next time, we'll talk soon.